virtual, in person. Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Melanie Dittler. I am the co-chair of the BAC, the Brooklyn Neighborhood Association. This is the March general meeting that we have every other month on odd months. We hope you come back at some point. This is great. We haven't had this many people in this room for probably 5 or 6 years, at least. Way before the pandemic. Yeah. And I think, honestly, I think it was a developer thing when we had this many people here. Okay. So every time we start our meeting, we read 2 special things. One of them is our introduction. Everyone is here out of the goodness of their heart. Everyone is here to keep the neighborhood strong and make it better. It's important that we listen to every voice and give every voice its due. In that spirit, we thank everyone for respecting each other in this room, for giving them the space to express themselves, and for devoting ourselves to paying close attention to each voice. It's just kind of ground rules, okay? And then we have a land acknowledgement that we read also every time we start a meeting. We start this event by acknowledging that Multnomah County is geographically located on the ancestral homelands of the indigenous tribes of the Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Tumwater, Watlala Blands of the Chinook, the Tualatin Kalapuya, and many other indigenous nations of the Columbia River. We recognize that indigenous Native American communities still exist today, despite intentional attempts of genocide, displacement, and assimilation by white supremacy culture and systems. While land acknowledgements are important to helping us frame a sense of place in history, we recognize that they are only the first step towards reconciliation. Okay, so again, thank you guys all for coming. We have 3 developers here tonight. There are 3 large developments coming in. One of them is just up the street here, the BrookLAND apartments on Milwaukie and Cora. Another one is on where the US Bank used to be. And that one is just kind of getting started. And the third one is at the La Carreta spot. And that spot is not an apartment complex. That is a food cart pod. And so that's really exciting. So we'll get to learn all about that. Okay. I think the first people we're going to have up is the BrookLAND project, and that is the US Bank location. So if you guys want to come up, Micah. All right. Yep. And I'll hand it over to you. Wonderful. Well, okay, I'll speak. Let me know on volume how we're doing. Yes, did not expect such a wonderful crowd. So thank you everyone for taking the time to come learn about our project tonight. We'll take you through some general overviews of the project, the context, kind of what's going to be built, what's the plan, what's the vision. You'll get to see some unit layouts because we're really excited about the project and want other folks to be excited about it as well. Again, my name is Micah Greenberg. I'm with High Street Residential, a part of Trammell Crow Company here in Portland. This is my coworker, Aaron Holm, also part of the same organization. So we'll dive right in. So the project overview, we're right here at the old US Bank location. The site is going to be 120 units with a mechanized parking system. And 10% of the units will be affordable units on site, consolidated at 60% area median income. That picture is just zoomed out, but as local folks, you know where we're talking about. So you might have seen it if you came down Milwaukie. It's right across from Bear Paw Inn. We just started construction in December of 2022, and we have an expected completion date of December 2024. Here you'll just see some floor plans. The development itself is 5 stories. On your ground floor, you have our mechanized parking system. You have townhomes and some other 1 and 2 bedroom units. On level 2, you have the second floor of the townhomes, the second floor of this mechanized parking and the like. And then we're just showing you kind of a typical floor plan going up from there. This is the stuff we geek out on similarly, so wanted to kind of provide some context as well. Here you'll see kind of some units of what will be built and what will be leasable at delivery. There will be studio 1 bedroom, 2 beds, and townhome units. And here you have a little bit of kind of the look and feel of the project. We're still working on the name. We were joking with Cheryl about whether we needed input. There are too many cooks in the kitchen, but there will be a reveal at some point. And we're excited about that. But this kind of gives you an idea of when it's built out, what the space will look like, and we'll show you a bit of the outdoor of the project as well. Here's some more in terms of just inspirations for the imagery and the finishes. We've got kind of lobby. We've got lobby, co-working, a whiskey lounge in the above as well.
Well, one for the beach people,
right?
No sleep till Brooklyn.
Thank you. Yes. Developers with a sense of humor, right? And good cultural references. And here we wanted to just provide some overviews of what the project is going to look like at grade. Since you all are local and in this area, kind of wanting to really highlight what the experience with the site will be there. And have
which corner is
this corner? I think this.
Southwest.
So that's Kelly and 12th facing southwest. And so that's essentially the overview. It's a little bit quick. We're at the start of our project, so we don't have much kind of to tell you other than some basics around the context and what's going to be built, what's the plan, what's the timeline, but would love to take a moment and get any kind of questions, comments, if folks had anything they'd like to start with, please. Yeah. It's mechanized parking, which we're really excited about. There's a few places in town that you might have seen it. There's essentially parking stackers. And it used to be in the before times that they were double parked and you couldn't get your car out and it's really inconvenient. But it's a system now where essentially any car can be accessed at any time. There will be about 42 spots in total. That's a parking ratio of about 0.3 per apartment, which for Southeast is ahead of the area in terms of parking in the project. Yeah, in terms of repeating the question was, is there parking on site? What is mechanized parking? And describe the parking mechanism and then also the count of parking stalls available. Yeah, there's also ample bike parking. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's significant and we have a dedicated bike room on site as well.
I think it's 1.5 to 1. I think it's 1.5 to 1 bike parking to unit, which would make it 200 bike stalls. There's 2 large bike rooms with bike parking.
Locked.
Yeah, locked. Yeah, with racks and like with lifting equipment to raise it to pack it in.
I had a question about the long-term goals for the building. On the ground floor, is there a plan for there to be retail in the long term, or is it always going to be residential?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't catch all of it.
Is the long-term plan for the ground floor to have any retail or commercial use, or is this the long-term plan for the building is to be fully residential?
Do you want to address that?
Right now, it's fully residential. That doesn't mean in the future there isn't space or the potential for it to become retail. I think we're excited about the densification on site that would then be very supportive to local business in the area, but not currently.
Okay, thank you.
Two questions. Number one, is this going to be electric or gas and electric? Can you repeat that?
So the question is it electric or gas and electric? And the units, the appliances will be electric. We have induction cooktops. So it won't be gas cooktops, but we do have gas powered rooftop units and gas hot water.
Okay, and the second question is a hypothetically one. Could something like this be built if 20% of the units were at AMI? Would it still be affordable or feasible?
Sure. In terms of, sure, the question was, could something like this be built with 20% of the units at AMI? Would it still be feasible then? The building codes and kind of regulations around inclusionary housing and zoning in the city of Portland is set at a city level. So there's two ways that you can do that. You can either do 10% of your units at 60% AMI, or you can do 20% of your units at 80% AMI. We chose to do at the higher level of affordability. But I think that that's specifically something that can go through regulatory process versus the developer side. But we're excited to be able to provide those units.
The reason I ask is our governor is saying we're looking for 500,000 units in the next 10 years. And that 10% of 500,000, you have to build a lot of units.
You're not wrong, and there is. Sure, that's a great question. The question is, what is AMI? I love this. Yeah, no, it's a great question, and thank you for flagging it. AMI is the area median income, and that's set by essentially census data for specific areas within a certain zip code. The median income is set, and then the Portland Housing Bureau provides kind of capped rents at each percentage threshold for each year. Yep. They'd remain. The question is, how long would they remain affordable? There's currently kind of legislation and question about that. At the present, it's a 10-year time frame. That might be extended into the future, but it's currently kind of in the legislature and being debated.
So the AMI, the price of real estate goes up. I know this is happening downtown some other places, and ends up moving other people that live there for a long time. Because all the value of the property goes up, so whatever the average is, well, it's considered affordable in comparison to.
Yes.
To the real estate. So you end up moving people out of it.
I mean, you are highlighting kind of known issues and the reason that. Yeah, I mean, that's sure.
So I heard about having affordability for buildings and stuff.
Mhm.
It's not to have an on-site parking, they put so much money in on-site parking, this is mechanized parking, assuming that's even more expensive to build. Now that doesn't, it makes the building more expensive to build, so when the builder has to charge more for the apartments.
Yeah, I think you're highlighting kind of the trade-offs that everyone here faces all of the time, and that kind of everyone in this room experiences of, parking is really important, and it's important for people in this room about having parking on site at our project, because if we don't have any parking, it means it's harder for residents and other area folks and visitors to find parking. But then if you don't, definitely. You're not wrong. And I would say kind of this is a trade-off. This is where we've been able to sit. We're definitely not going to be able to solve everything or kind of give everything, but this is our best shot at this time, kind of within this current regulatory framework.
I have another question. Oh, I don't know if there's somebody in the audience that had a question before me, but I had a question again about the retail, because it does seem like a really important subject for people. I've worked on, I work as an architect now in schools, but I've worked on mixed use housing. And I know that a solution that's been posed and has been successful in the past is in places that a developer doesn't think that it's profitable at this time to have retail, to design a certain portion of the building where there might be retail in the future in a way that can easily house it in the future. So having, like, say, the portion of this building, I see that it's kind of L-shaped and there's that block that's right in the middle of our retail area. So if the floor to floor in that area was great, like was large enough that in the future you could reuse that space and it could eventually house any kind of retail or restaurant. I think that, I don't know, that might be something that the neighborhood could see a lot more potential for the building than something that is really just going to fill that block up in the long term with something that isn't going to add to our commercial area.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and it's definitely, there isn't retail at present, but there is not a reason that it couldn't be converted in the future. So point taken. Agreed.
Is that
Okay. I think you've been waiting.
Oh, just a super quick question is probably literally on this. The estimate on how much the rent is going to range from studio to the bedroom. Just is that.
It's hard to say at this point because, yeah, we're 2 years away from delivery. I would say at this point, in line with kind of area rents, we definitely don't want to be a standout. At the same time, I can't give a great range just because there's so much forecasting built into that. But as soon as it's public, we will definitely be sharing and posted. So, and then I think that's it for questions, but Aaron and I will hang around right here shortly if anyone wants to come talk to us specifically or privately. I know we didn't get some of the questions and appreciate folks coming out and your time. Thank you very much. Yeah, many of the developers will be here after the meeting's over, hopefully, if you're willing to stay. If you're not willing to stay, totally okay. So that we can have more questions asked. So we're going to move on to the next development. Who's next? Oh, BrookLAND. All right, let's get BrookLAND up here. They're our big one. Great. So I don't really have much to say here.
Hey everybody, I'm Jameson Lose with Ethos Development. Live in North Portland. Ethos is right off of Sandy and 24th, and we're really excited about this project right down the street on Milwaukie and Cora. It's 166 units, similar to the Trammell Pro project. It's 10% of the units are affordable, and those units will be. All right. Gotcha. Oh, there's the camera. Hello, everybody.
Hold on, let me get the screen.
All righty. That working? So 10% of the units will be affordable, and that includes 3 bedrooms. There's a real need for family size housing. And so, all right, can you guys hear me? Sorry. All right, so number of 3 bedrooms in our project. We're really excited about that because there's a huge need for family size housing. Part of Ethos's whole strategy is building market rate projects that don't require subsidy and deliver affordable units in well-located areas. So in addition to the 3 bedrooms, we're also, we have micros and studios that are close to 80% AMI, which area median income. And basically the goal there is to build smaller units that people can afford to live in and give great amenities that everyone in the building can share and enjoy. So we got some renderings of that. Excited to show you all what those look like. So previously, a lot of you are probably familiar. The site was the Brew Doctor Kombucha warehouse, and they ended up moving, and so the site became available. It's a really funky site. It kind of is very angular. So it's a really long building as you drive by Milwaukee. And so in order to kind of create some articulation and interest, there's a notch in kind of the middle of the building. That's the main entry. And then the kind of sides of the building kind of angle out along Milwaukee. It was a really complicated process to build it. The building didn't use a crane, which is pretty unique. And so, yeah, we can go, I guess, to the next slide here. There's also a split zone site. So the building kind of steps down as it gets closer to residential. It's 5 stories along Milwaukee and then goes down to 4 stories as it gets closer to the neighborhood. Next slide. So you can see that here. This is kind of a massing of the building. The building also includes kind of 2 interior atriums, which are meant to kind of create some green space and just natural light for residents there. Also, there's a lot of visibility into the building from the street. So this is Milwaukee right here. You can look in and there's kind of an open stairwell going down and some really cool cedar kind of accents. And yeah, the thought is to kind of create this connection between public and private. This is a floor plan. So you can see here, atrium, kind of courtyard number 1, courtyard number 2, main entry right off of Milwaukee. These are some of our micros and studio units here. We can go to the next slide. These are some of the renderings of kind of what the building is going to look like. We have a number of biophilic, which means kind of love of nature, kind of bringing green inside. And so there's going to be in those courtyards, these kind of draping vines that come down. And then also inside a lot of the amenity spaces, there's trees, there's greenery. And the hope is to kind of really create this connection between kind of inside, outside, bringing kind of life of, you know, I don't know, biophilic kind of greenery in the building. One note here, so this used to be, the plan was originally when we started designing the building to be a retail spot. And actually Brew Doctor was going to be the tenant, which we were really excited about. And then COVID happened. And so unfortunately, Brew Doctor is not doing any more kind of retail locations. And so we had to pivot at that point and kind of change that space into kind of additional lobby. Another kind of COVID phenomenon that I'm sure everybody's familiar with is just work from home. And so we thought, given the number of kind of smaller units we had, it'd be great to give people additional space to kind of work from home in little phone booths and kind of conference rooms and that type of thing. So we went through the process with the city, got a permit revision, and turned kind of what was a retail area into kind of co-working, which hopefully will be a really active use and something interesting to look at from the street. One other cool note, since then, we've also worked with a really great muralist who's also kind of local to Portland. There's going to be a beautiful mural as you kind of walk by the side there. So this is Milwaukee Street right here in kind of Cora, a huge mural that spans 25 or 30 feet that kind of has this really cool just greenery and vines and some abstract imagery that ties to kind of the whole building theme. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Boise, Milwaukee. Thank you, Cheryl. This is also, so yeah, Boise and Milwaukee here. This is kind of an old rendering that showed Brew Doctor as the retail tenant, which is no more, but this will kind of be the lobby space. And you can see the outside of the building, which right now is a really kind of blah yellow color, is going to be painted black. And then there's also going to be kind of cedar accents. So this is kind of one notch in the building. And then this is the stairway I was talking about that will be kind of wood and kind of create some visual interest. Next slide, please. Just an update on where we are now. You can see this was during our wonderful snowstorm last month. So the building exteriors is all but finished. We need to get it painted. It's really hard to do in the winter. but we're getting close. And so now R&H, who's our contractor, is working on the interior of the building. They're kind of finishing out a lot of the units. And our goal is to deliver in kind of June, maybe July. We're just trying to kind of get everything wrapped up. We've had, unfortunately, a lot of kind of delays with labor and materials and everything else associated with, COVID fallout of the last couple of years. Next slide, please. This is our website, and I would encourage anybody to check it out. It's BrookLAND-PDX.com. We also are just getting an Instagram up and going. Probably has like 3 photos right now, but we'll populate that more soon. We're going to put updates on there, and kind of you can see more about the building. Once the building delivers, we're going to take a bunch of photography, and you can kind of see what it looks like on the inside. I think there also will probably be a tour that we do once the building delivers. I'm working with Cheryl to kind of coordinate a date for that. But cool.
In the chat,
Great.
if you know probably the ones that are before, parking, retail, and below market rents.
Yes. Okay. So retail, parking, retail, and below market rents. All right. So retail we talked about. We had retail, and unfortunately it didn't work. So now it's co-working. So no retail on this project. That said, we're really excited about Array across the street, and kind of any event we do, we've been trying to send people there. We think that'll be a great retail amenity for kind of residents here and also residents in the neighborhood. Let's see, parking, we have 29 stalls, and similar to the last project, that includes mechanized parking. Parking is ridiculously expensive to build, and thankfully there's some good public transit along Milwaukee and kind of just throughout the city. So we're thinking that a lot of people that are going to live in this building are probably going to take kind of the bus and get around the city that way. For those that do drive, they're the parking garage kind of that's connected to the building. We have we have 6 EV charging stations in the project because that is the future. And then below market rents, I mentioned bike parking. So I think the city requirement is 1.5 per unit. So we have a lot of bike parking. It is. Yep. We have bike rooms, lots of bikes. And then below market rent. So 10% of the units are at 60% of area median income. You can aggregate those and put them into bedrooms. And I mentioned we have the 3-bedroom units that are kind of more of a family sized unit.
On the bike parking, will you be allowed to park?
The question was, can you plug in an electric bike in the bike parking? I believe there are outlets in the bike room. I need to double check that. There should be. There's no, I think that's actually a electrical code requirement. So I don't think we have like a separate charging type station for electric bikes, but there should be outlets in the bike room. Yeah. Yes. We're planning to hold this because it's an awesome project and we're excited about it. Meritus Property Management, it's also a local company right off of Gleason in Northeast. They're going to manage it for us. Yeah. No, we're excited about that too. I honestly don't know enough to comment about the Safe Rest. Is that something through the city's kind of Safe Rest villages that? Okay. Yeah, I'm very interested to find out about that, but I don't really know much about it.
Let's keep it, guys.
Okay. Yeah. We are trying to hit pre-leasing hard because the project has taken forever to build. So there's no one living in the building because they don't have TCO yet. But so occupancy is 0. We're really, okay. We don't have anyone signed up because it's still a couple months out. So we're just trying to get the word out there. You'll probably see in the next few weeks, there's going to be some marketing banners that go on the fence. I'm trying to get the word out there that, you know, we're really trying to do everything we can to let people know about this project because we're really excited about it. The units will become available as soon as we get TCO. And that's why we're trying to kind of point everyone to our website and Instagram and everything else, because we'll have kind of up-to-date info as we get closer. Sorry, temporary certificate of occupancy. So that's the city saying people can move in. Yes. Yep. How many handicap parking stalls and units? Oh, gotcha. You know, I think the federal requirement, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 3% of your units need to be accessible. Does that generally sound right? If we had an architect in the room, they could tell us. But whatever the federal FHA requirements are, we are meeting that. And yeah, basically a lot of those units are often kind of ground floor, but we have an elevator, so it could be any of the units. I can't tell you exactly the number of units, unfortunately, because I don't know that off the top of my head. 2 elevators, yeah. A micro unit is, so a studio it's similar to a studio, basically. It's kind of you don't have a cordon off space for a bedroom. The living area is also the bedroom. And so sometimes there'll be Murphy beds that kind of fold up into the wall. We decided not to do that for this project, but we've done it on other projects. They're pretty small units. They're about 300 square feet. And it's really for kind of usually a young professional out of college. I actually went to Reed College, and so there might be some Reedies that end up living here. But someone that kind of needs not a ton of space, but wants to live kind of, you know. Oh man, of course, yeah. I would guess, I don't know off the top of my head, 450 to 500 square feet, I think is kind of a studio. I think the micros are 300 to 350.
Is it okay to ask a question from those of us on Zoom?
Sorry, let's finish. Yeah. I think what you're talking about, yeah, it's kind of like the Murphy beds. I've seen those for sure. We don't have any built-in other furniture in the unit. That said, I mean, we're just talking about to make it really easy for students or other folks that might be moving out of town to kind of give them an idea of like, here's kind of the type of bed you could use and kind of a couple suggested tables and such. But I mean, all that said, micros they're very kind of condensed, efficient units. But you know, the thought is with a lot of amenity space, it makes it kind of livable and usable for a wide range of people.
Tell her to unmute herself.
Kathy, you might be muted.
I am not muted, but I couldn't hear that it was okay for me to ask a question. So I can only hear the person on the microphone. I can't hear people in the room. And thank you, John, for all the transcribing. So to the presenter, I want to, in as kind a way as possible, challenge something that you've said because it really makes no sense. What you said is you have no retail, right? And you explain that. And I hear that you're really excited about this building. I'm not excited about it because it has no retail. You said that, and I'm going to almost quote you, to be perfectly honest, most of the people living here are going to be riding the bus. They're not going to own a car. If most of the people living here are going to be riding the bus and you're recommending this to your former Reedies and you have no retail here, how is that going to encourage them to stay in the neighborhood? Are all of them going to be camping out at Array across the street? I mean, come on, it's super short-sighted. And so I just want to point out that what you said is very contradictory. Thank you for giving me the floor. I'm done.
Okay, thanks, Kathy.
Are those allocated to be low income? Explain how the low income allocation.
Question?
Yes, so just to repeat the question, for the affordable units that are at 60% area median income, they're consolidated into 3-bedroom units. And so basically, Portland Housing Bureau puts out kind of the rents for those units each year. And those units will be on our website, just like all the other units. But there will be kind of a note about just their income restricted. And so the way that those work is that you kind of have to verify, you have to go through a process to verify your income. And to make sure that you know, people that are at a certain income level that they're intended for are actually renting out those units. And then once you've been in those units for a year, you got to verify your income every year that you're renewing. So yeah, they're 3-bedroom units. I don't know, I guess what other detail can I share? I mean, just to speak to that for a second. So most of the units that are delivered are studios. And so there's a ton of affordable, really small units. The city has voiced that there's a huge need for family size housing. So a lot of developers are responding to that. This project is responding to that by building kind of larger affordable units. So that's the concept of the 3 bedrooms. Yep. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, 2 things, a question and I didn't feel the antagonistic tone of one of the interventions there was particularly useful, but picking up a little bit on that, I'm wondering, are you going to monitor perhaps the usage of that workspace that was initially slated as and see whether it is really actively used? And if not, would you then go back and consider transforming it into a retail space? Or is that kind of set in stone?
Okay. Just to make sure everybody heard it. So the question was, are we going to monitor the co-working space? And then would it ever become kind of a, you know, more traditional, maybe food and beverage type retail?
But given if it's high usage by the dwellers, then fine. But suppose it becomes somewhat of a dead space because people don't particularly have a use for it. That could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Then do you have enough flexibility to then turn around or is that and turn it back into a possible retail space?
Yeah. One thing I do want to be conscious of, and John, maybe you can tell me, I don't want to take up too much time. So kick me off whenever. Okay, cool. So honestly, this is the first time we're doing this. So the co-working piece, the last company I worked for did co-working space and it was really popular and people loved it. And then they ended up having to kind of create a system where people could book times, you know, when to have spaces. So I think there should be a lot of demand for it, especially given the fact that there's a number of smaller units. People probably want to kind of have a full conference room if they can have it for free and, you know, use it and kind of work from home. So we think that there will be a good demand for it. That said, we're going to kind of see what happens. I think we'll probably start off by just kind of making it available to residents. If there's a lot of demand, we probably will do like a calendar kind of booking out different hours and such for it. And then if there's no interest and it's just kind of sitting there dead, I think we definitely would reconsider kind of what that space could be used for. It's tough to it'd be really tough to convert it to like a food and beverage use, because a lot of times you have to, well, in order to do that, you need a grease interceptor for kind of the water going down into the system, and then kind of often a hood, which you can't really put those in after the building's built. But I think like a non-food and beverage use, you know, we probably would consider if the space is not being used.
What's the square foot?
It's pretty small. It's like 700 square feet. So not huge. Yeah. I
Everything. Eventually become retail. Is that possible?
I think that it was only intended for that corner to potentially be retail. Because the rest of the units have entries that go towards the courtyard, and retail would need to be towards the street. There's one other unit that has towards the street, but it doesn't really have, it's not designed to be retail. Retail, usually you want big windows like storefront, like these right here, versus kind of a mostly enclosed private space. So I'm not aware of that ever being part of the design, but I also wasn't here kind of at day one. Tom, can I just say, I agree with you in terms of kind of affordable retail. And one of the challenges that we face is that in these first generation spaces, it's really expensive to build it out and kind of fit it out for a new tenant. It's usually like in the 6 to 7 or 6 figures. And so one opportunity that might be there is there's a number of buildings here. I think Beaverton, downtown Beaverton, if you ever go there, there's a ton of retail that is affordable and really interesting in old kind of single story space. And like there's a developer that has done that really well. And it's not a multifamily developer. He's a retail developer that, what is it? Lionheart Coffee, Ex Novo, that's right there on Watson. Converting single story into retail that, you know, the community wants is a totally needed thing. I think it's a little bit different than like the let's build housing because we're in a housing crisis play. But I just want to say I definitely see the need there. And I think part of the challenge that we face as kind of building new product is it's so expensive to build out a retail space. And then if it's really expensive, you have to charge more in rent. So it's hard to like have new construction and affordable retail. But there's ways to do that that are probably a little bit different than what we're doing here. But thank you all. Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna switch gears to food carts.
Yeah, does anyone like retail here? You guys like retail? You like parking, food? You like food? You like something that's community based? So my name is Garner Moody. I'm the owner and general contractor for the La Carreta building. We bought it a few months ago. Plan is to demolish the building. We're gonna install 18 different food carts, an indoor bar area, and 29 parking spaces. If you could go to the first slide, that'd be great. Indoor bar area. Yep, that's right. So first question right off the top, go ahead.
So today that people be plumbed according to the city. Food
Yes.
cart restrictions.
Yes, they will be plumbed to the new restrictions, absolutely. So we built several food carts around town, lots of new rules, lots of new regulations, which is ultimately good for the consumer. It's good for the environment. We're gonna be in compliance with everything. But I also wanted to say something about food carts in general that's missing that we're gonna deliver here. Food carts around town, in my estimation, are really good at delivering awesome food, but the experience is not that good. There's not good parking, if there's parking at all. There's not a proper place to eat your food. You're eating your burrito, in the rain. And frankly, the cleanliness standards are just not there. So we are gonna have the best food cart spot in the entire city. Absolutely, it's gonna happen. Yep. And the 300 new apartments that are coming in, this is where they're gonna go, okay? And we're gonna have retail all day long in there. Bike parking has not been established yet, but we are gonna have 15 bike spots. 7 of them are gonna be fully locked. But they are gonna be near the courtyard somewhere. So just walking you through this real quick. This is Holgate, obviously. You're gonna enter from Holgate, 29 bike spots, and you're gonna exit onto McLoughlin. That's an ODOT rule. You have to have the one-way going out into McLoughlin, which we think is the best way to do it anyway. This garbage area is actually gonna be moved. This is another pet peeve of mine with the food cart spots. The garbage area is an afterthought. It is not going to be on our spot. We are going to have a sanitation crew. We're going to have a huge garbage area, and it is going to be clean, and you are not going to see garbage laying everywhere and rats like you do at other food cart spots. So this is 2,500 square foot indoor bar area. There's going to be about a 2,000 square foot outdoor covered area. And then there's going to be a courtyard right in the middle, 18 food carts, and they are going to be hand selected for the best food carts in town. We are not just going to take the 18 that come our way or that pay the highest rent. As a matter of fact, we are willing to accept lower rent for the right kind of food cart tenant. We think you'll be very pleased with that. And by the way, this is, since we just bought this property a few months ago, these are concept drawings. This is going to look a lot different in its final stage. This site plan is going to look exactly the same, but the building is going to look much different. We'd be happy to come back and show you what the building is going to look like. Next slide. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's going to be universal. The bar area is not going to sell their own food. It is designed for it to take food from the vendors and eat it inside. We have someone that we have hired who is a bar manager who's going to run it. And they have a staff. There's going to be 7 staff members, bartenders and servers. I am the owner and general contractor. Yeah, I'm going to run everything. Yeah. We are going to demolish the building in the fall, start construction afterward, and it'll be open about 1.5 years from today's date. Takes about 1 year of construction. Other questions? We are not adding another crosswalk. They are not going to allow it. It is something that we have discussed. Can you go to the previous slide, please? The question is, are we going to install another crosswalk? There is, there's a crosswalk right here on the corner, and then there's another one down here by Hound Dogs. There's really nothing right here, but in our discussions with PBOT or Portland Bureau of Transportation, they are not going to allow that. They don't want to encourage it right there. But we do think that we have ample parking spots, especially relative to the other food cart locations in town, which generally don't have any. Yes. We did the ones on North Mississippi. We did the one on 50th and Fremont, and then there's one on 82nd and Davis. And then we're in a planning stage on one in Hillsborough as well. It's another, kind of looks like this. It's 18 food carts. Yes, so it says covered outdoor area. That's where you're going to be able to eat.
When you say at the bar area, you mean there's gonna be a real bar where they sell booze?
I'll remember that question when you walk in there, and yes, I'll buy you a cocktail when you walk in. Yeah. Yes, the reason why, yes, you could get yourself a beer, glass of wine, you know, Jack Daniels, whatever you prefer. Yeah, yeah. No, you mean like it's like a shared kitchen area? Yeah, no, we don't want to do a shared kitchen area. It's just a different design that we like. We like the food carts because there's independent owners with each of these food carts. And so, you know, this is, each one of these are family businesses that have basically invested their life savings in this cart. They don't want to share kitchens. They want to have their food cart spot. That's our business plan. Yeah, security is, yeah. We are not going to have no, not a physical person. We are going to have a security system. We are going to have a fence, and we're going to have a lot of lighting. It's a good point. I mean, you know, the current state of the La Carreta building is, you know, you've seen it. Lots of troubles there, and we do anticipate, you know, some security challenges there. But no, this is a small development, you know, by a local person. I don't have the money to pay for a night security person. Yes. It does have the potential to do that. That's not our plan up front. Our other food cart developments, we have not done that. We have noticed that some of the bigger food cart developments in Happy Valley and Troutdale and Salem has some bigger ones that are going to be like this. They do have a venue, you know, with live music and you know, bingo night and things like that. It's something that we'll probably do, but for right now, it's not going to happen initially out of the gates. Okay, another question. Yes, it is enclosed. If you could go to the second slide, please. The Hawthorne Asylum, no, the Hawthorne Asylum, it is enclosed on the outside with that large fence, but there's not an indoor area where you could get out of the cold. This will be a fully enclosed building where you could go in there when it's snowing or raining and be out of the elements. Yes. What's the? Yes, yes. Yes, that was the one we did. We'll crush that. Yeah, we did that one. When we did it, it was called Scout Brewery. It's since changed names, but yes, similar concept with a fully enclosed indoor area where you can eat your food without, you know, getting rained on. So this is what it's going to look like from the courtyard. There's going to be a lot of glass, 20-foot high ceilings. This is obviously our indoor area right here. I don't have a shot of the other side, but there's going to be a covered outdoor area. There's going to be a gas fireplace here. Yeah. Oh no. Oh no. The question is there going to be porta potties? No, there's going to be 4 bathrooms, physical bathrooms. Excellent question. Yes, the question is, what are going to be the hours of operation, and are minors going to be allowed? The hours of operation are, we're just gonna open up at 11 and then is going to shut down around 8 or 9 p.m. That is subject to change a little bit. If we get a food cart vendor who serves breakfast, we might open a little bit earlier, but generally food carts open around the lunch hour and then close down a little bit after dinner. Oh, and then children, yes, absolutely. It is going to be, I have small children, so if I didn't make this family friendly, my wife would make me sleep in the garage. So there's going to be a section for the kids. It's going to be wheelchair accessible, ADA adaptable throughout the whole complex. Yes. Will I be? The question is, will we be playing timbers and other sporting games in the bar? Our objective is to not make this a sports bar. There will be a couple of TVs, but they won't be very prominent. You'd be able to watch the game, but we don't want to advertise that this is a sports bar. Also, on the other hand, maybe not.
I have a question about the food cart. I mean, we've been talking a lot about the building, but the area where the carts are, I'm a little interested in, because this design has changed things a lot from other food cart areas where the socializing is centered around the food cart area. And it's not necessarily bad that they're separated in this instance, but the food cart area, like, is there any thought put into how that experience is to be amongst those carts? Because a lot of other areas will have, some places actually have a covered area where you walk under it. You know, if it's colder weather, where you can walk from food cart to food cart. Like, what's the experience of the area where the food carts are? Because it kind of seems like the food carts are just in a parking lot off to the side, and then you have this nice building.
Okay, did you guys hear that? You want me to repeat it? Okay, yes, it's a really good question. The experience as you're going through the food cart section, we're playing around with what that's going to be. We would really like it to be a covered element. I'm not sure if it's in the budget, but I see your point. You know, you really don't want to be shopping for your food, you know, while it's raining on you. So we are sensitive to that. It's a little bit of a construction detail challenge as to how you build a canopy that spans that whole distance. But we'll do something there for weather protection. If it's not a metal, you know, roof, you know, it'll be something that will at least you know, get the rain off you. And in terms of just making it, you know, pedestrian friendly and a place where you want to, you know, hang out, we've made that area a little bit wider to account for people, you know, walking on both you know, sections of the food cart vendors. And then, yeah, but it's really not designed as a place to hang out where you're going to be shopping for your food. We really want to emphasize that there's a place where you order your food, and there's another place where you go and eat it, and it's only, you know, a few feet away. So we think that that's a good way to do it.
All right, thank you.
Josh, go ahead.
He probably can't hear you, John. Josh, go ahead.
Josh, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's really difficult. It's pretty much impossible to hear anybody who's not on the mic. So again, please repeat anything that's being said in the mic, off the mic. Yeah, so the question about bike parking, sounds like you said there were 15 slots and there were 29 car parking spaces. 15 doesn't sound like a lot for a big food cart pod. Like, I've shown up with the group bike ride of 20 people to cart pods before, and that's one of the big benefits of them is they can usually accommodate large groups. And really that there's not really other facilities around there. There's not going to be pretty much anywhere else to park nearby. So some kind of, you know, a good quantity of bike parking, also, you know, some amount at least covered, you know, somewhere that's, you know, visible. It's not tucked on the back of the building. That's kind of out of the way or whatever. So just really making sure that, especially because the seating area is going to be separate. A lot of times cart pods, you can sort of have your bike just kind of handy if it's sort of all one integrated area. So having a solid amount of quality bike parking would really make or break whether, you know, a group would be able to come to something like this.
It's a really good point. I think we'll take that to heart. I mean, we can install more bike parking rather easily. You know, we do have the space for it, and we want to be bike friendly as well. So we'll take that one to heart. We'll probably install, you know, some more. However many more, I don't know at this moment. I'll have to talk to the architect, but if we can fit some more in there, you know, we can improve that count. 30. Counting on you, Josh. Yeah.
And you're talking to somebody who's on the board of SHIP, which runs Petaluma. So
Oh, okay. Okay, all right, 30 spots, all right, let's do it. He was, yeah, he was saying that the Hawthorne Asylum food cart spot, which is probably one of the better spots in town, doesn't have very good bike parking.
You do, as Josh was saying, you get to see your bike there, you can lay it up against the wall and you see it from the tables that you're sitting at. And I think that was the distinction.
can you repeat that because the people online.
The distinction was that at Hawthorne Asylum, you can lay your bike and see it from where you're eating at the tables there, as opposed to being indoors at the bar at this particular location. So your bike parking is perceived to be more secure because you can keep an eye on your bike.
Okay, another question.
So this one is.
Yeah, the question is, it's a really busy intersection and a very dangerous intersection, and how are we working with Portland Bureau of Transportation, making it accessible and keeping it safe? There's no way that we can make that intersection safer, you know, so but what we are doing on our side is that we're creating a berm. So there's going to be a metal fence surrounding the property. And then we're actually going to create a berm, which is part of a sound deterrent. And it's also a car deterrent as well. I think your question was really more to, pedestrians. And so we're going to make it ADA accessible, and I don't think other food carts are doing that. Yeah. Well, we think it's a really good idea. We want it to be a pedestrian friendly environment. Well, I'll talk to ODOT about that. We have an application in with them right now. Okay, wonderful. Yeah. The comment was that if we need any help with that, the neighborhood would get involved. Okay. I think the other two slides we've already covered. This is just a little bit of a preliminary look as to what it's going to look like. This is if you're standing at Holgate looking into the building right there. There's going to be a door there, obviously. This is inside the building looking to the courtyard. This is going to be a bar area over there. And then this is going to be the little courtyard where we might have some music venues in the future. This is another look at the site plan, which is a little bit more detail on the inside, but it's pretty much the same as the other one. Oh, the other thing that I think is really important is that we have storage for the food carts. So a lot of the food cart vendors around town, they're using their car to put their dry goods. They're constantly going to the store. They're running at home, and it just creates kind of a mess. So we have storage for the food cart vendors, which we think will be a better experience overall. So that's all I've got for the presentation. Any other questions? Yes. Good question. Yeah, the question was, are we going to make special accommodations for mobile delivery services like Uber Eats? And the answer is yes. We are going to have one or maybe two spots that are dedicated to those. And especially in the wintertime, we see that about 50% of the business is actually takeout or mobile deliveries. And so they're constantly coming in. So it's super important. Another question? Yes. It's going to be a steel fence. Yes. Good question. Yeah, the question is 24-hour fitness concerned about overflow parking into their parking? The answer is yes, they are, and they are going to enforce it. And if we violate that, then we will definitely hear about it. So there's going to be, some signs, and they're not going to be allowed to do that. Otherwise, there'll be some corrective action taken against me, I'm sure. Yeah, right. Oh, well, you guys excited? Eating some food carts? You think that's good for the neighborhood? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The question is, how are we gonna handle the mix of the food cart units, the food vendors? And yes, we are going to be, there's going to be, one from every, there's going to be one Mexican, one Thai, one burger place. And like I said earlier, we don't want to have just run of the mill places. We want somebody with really good reviews, really good customer service, good social media presence. All that's really important to us.
Half the parts aren't open, and this is like at dinner. Is there gonna be some kind of 4 hours, or is that impossible?
Really good question. It's regarding how do we keep the vendors open, because it's inconvenient when you go there and half of them are closed. It's a challenge that we have. And what we do is we write into the contracts that you have to be open a certain number of hours per week. And, sometimes they violate that, and, we have a discussion about it. And after 2 or 3 times, there's things written into the contract, but there's penalties. You don't really want to do that with your customers, but, also these are small businesses, and sometimes they go on vacation, sometimes they get sick. And so there is a little bit of an allocation for that. I would say this, that some of the other food carts are smaller in nature. So you maybe got 5 or 6. So if one person is sick or on vacation, it makes a huge difference. When you have 18 vendors, you can have 1 or 2, on vacation, which we don't think is going to happen very often, the kind of vendors we're having. But when you have more vendors, one's not there, it's not as big of an imposition. Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And now I'm hungry. All right, well, we wanted to just touch a little bit on another piece of neighborhood news. I think most of the people in the room probably know about the sanctioned camping tent camp that's going to be coming into nearby our neighborhood, not into our neighborhood, but nearby our neighborhood. And we had a really great conversation on Friday and with Mayor Wheeler and a large team of people that we hosted as the BAC. It is available online to watch. Please go ahead and do that if you haven't watched it yet. It is on our website right in the middle there. It will answer a lot of your questions. He also had one last night, and I listened to that last night. That was also a very good conversation. I believe they have that posted as well, so you can watch that recording. And last but not least is tomorrow night, So if you haven't attended one yet, I highly encourage you to attend one of these webinars. So tomorrow night from 5:30 to 6:30, they will be doing their last webinar and trying to gather some feedback from the neighborhood and also talk about what's happening. So we don't really want to make this a huge thing tonight. I don't want a big debate this evening. It's getting late in the first place. But I'm going to let John kind of fill you in with a couple things.
The other things, we're working with HAND on a joint committee where we can come up, make sure both neighborhoods have the same position with the city. We've been aligned with them so far. It's a joint committee between the boards. I think they also want to recruit, folks who are interested in being active on it as well. So contact the board if you want to be included in that. We also have an internal email list that we have put together for people who want to be active on this issue. There was a core group of about a half a dozen folks who helped us curate the questions for Friday's session. And it was very, very helpful. We all worked on a document together. We put the form together. So if you want to be active on that, come with us and let's work on that together. I think we're probably, we're still in the information gathering phase right now because it's not a done deal. They're obviously kind of winging it. I mean, we saw that in a couple of the meetings that we saw. And I think we're probably going to take an official vote of both HAND and the BAC probably by either the next board meeting or immediately after that. I'm not quite sure, but we're going to figure, we get our ducks in a row, get all our criticisms together and say, look, it's not the right site. Obviously, you haven't thought this out reasonably well. Here are some options we think you should consider on this. We're not quite sure where they're going with this. There is an opportunity here, though. They are giving each neighborhood amount of funding for safety. Each neighborhood is getting $250K that they can decide how to spend for safety resources. They're also going to prioritize the unhoused in our neighborhood and HAND. That's where they recruit people to go into in process into the center. The Urban Alchemy folks do that. And they're going to prioritize the people in that 1,000-foot radius, half of which is in our neighborhood. And that would clear out the underbridge crossing and make that a more comfortable place to be able to cross Powell. That's an interesting selling point if it works. The problem is if you make a vacuum there, do other people just come in again? And then when the camp is full, what happens? We don't know what the answers are to any of those questions yet. And we need to have answers to all those. That's exactly it. And it's not going to be coercive, right? They're relying on their ability to persuade people. They seem to have a good track record there. And that's one of the questions that we've asked them is, how good is your track record? So we're still asking a lot of these questions. We're going to figure it out. Yeah. Yeah. Each neighbor. Yes. That's money allocated to us in particular. This is what they said last November, and we confirmed it at this last meeting. So we're still going to be working on this. Please come to the next board meeting. Going to find what? Unclear. We're still confirming it. It's independent of the campsite. Correct. It's money that the neighbor gets to spend on things. We don't know whether it's per year. That was one other question that someone had. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think HAND has been taking that as well. They have a Google group they've set up, and I think they have the TTAs involved. If they don't, I'll make sure that we get them involved.
I'm just concerned that 1,000 feet parameters that they're going to think. So we have a lot more room in this area, which is more than 1,000 feet. So what's going to stop everybody from moving over here? They're already here, of course, but even more people. Yeah, the concern was about the 1,000-foot radius. They did indicate in our meeting that that was a flexible boundary and that they were also going to help us prioritize the hot spots in the neighborhood. We called out the 9th Street overpass. We called out McLoughlin, and they said they'd work with us to do that.
Now, I don't know whether that was sincere or not, right? I don't know whether it's them making it up as they go along, just telling us anything they want us to hear at this point. But it's interesting to hear that commitment from them, say, this is going to benefit our neighborhood. Is that going to be a broken promise? I can't tell you yet. Right. And the question was, one of the benefits of those being first is that they have to make this succeed. And that's a very interesting point. It gives us some amount of leverage. It gives us the ability to be a model for it. That's an opportunity for us. But the question is it workable at all? There's a lot of skepticism about how workable it is. Yeah. I'm going to come up and give you the mic so people can hear you over there too.
Why would Ted Wheeler focus on an outside organization that isn't familiar with the supportive services that are already being provided through Central City Concern, through Cascadia, through All Good, through Non-Good, through not No Good, through Do Good, through Transition Projects? These are all organizations that are deeply engrossed in meeting the or working with this population. And so instead he's hiring outside of these organizations, an organization that isn't familiar with what other organizations are actually here providing a lot of times specific types of services. Cascadia focusing on, addiction issues, Central City Concern, or Cascadia doing mental health subjects, Central City Concern doing addiction. What am I forgetting here? TPI does a lot of rapid rehousing and making sure that people are able to stay in housing. So how is an organization kind of come in and utilize all these other programming that are already getting millions of dollars?
That's a really good point, and that question was asked multiple times. And there were a number of organizations that apparently didn't bid on it for that reason, so. Go ahead, Kirsten.
John and Melanie, the board, just what's your plan from here? And will you come up with a statement? And then how can everyone in the room, find out about it and give input? So kind of what's the next step?
Yeah, next steps. We are working on this. I'm telling you, we're not sitting down on our hands. We're making it up as going along, but yeah.
Joint meetings with hands so that we come out with one statement together, because it is in their neighborhood and I want us to assist them in the effort on it. And I think the next steps are they're putting together the Google group where they are drafting their version of the Good Neighbor Agreement. We're going to collaborate with them on that and what the terms would be. And we're going to come up with a joint position on it with the Good Neighbor Agreement as a backstop, I think. I haven't talked to Chris in about 2 or 3 days because I've been busy on other things, but I should have an update for folks. I'll have an update in next week's email newsletter. If you don't subscribe, please subscribe.
Yes, make sure you subscribe. That's one of the main things I was going to tell you guys. Go to the website, subscribe to the weekly newsletter. It's right on the right-hand side of the website. As you look at the website, it's right on every single page. It says weekly newsletter. Put in your email and your first name. And yes, and if you want a QR code to link directly to it, there it is. That is going to be updated every week with all of the neighborhood information. So if there's any updates on developments, if there's any updates on this sanctioned tent campaign, if there's a trivia night tomorrow night at Manicolta, it'll be on there, right? She totally missed it. But yes, that's a really great resource for you to get updated information about what's happening in the neighborhood. But yes, we are working on all this. We are doing everything we can. If you have comments or anything, feel free to send an email to the board or send an email to the chair at the brooklandneighborhood.org. and, you know, just send everything over that you need, you know, to have said. We're happy to engage with anybody. If anybody wants to join in the, you know, in the conversation a little bit more deeply and a little bit more fully, we have board positions available. You know, we have all kinds of opportunities for you to get involved. Cheryl.
Tell them about problem solvers.
Oh, yeah. So there's another thing that the city is doing now, and they have a group of people that that consist of a neighborhood liaison, essentially, who is me at this point, and Kirsten has done it as well. So we are attending a meeting every other week on Tuesday afternoons, and we are meeting with city folk. So we are meeting with the graffiti team, the garbage team, the abandoned vehicles team, all the people in the area that you might have a concern or an issue with. They're all involved there in that meeting, and it's literally a 30-minute meeting. We knock out, it's almost probably 7 or 8 neighborhoods, if not 9 or 10 neighborhoods that join in, and we all have our 5 minutes of fame talking to, you know, telling people what's wrong, right? What's going on in my neighborhood right now? This is what we're dealing with. I need help with it. This is for repeat offenders. This is for things that have been basically reported to that PDX reporter app. You've reported something 14 times and it's still there, right? That's where you email us, me, whoever, the board, the chair, whoever, say problem solvers group on it, and I will be able to then bring that up to them. Yeah. So if you have reported it, let us know how many times you've reported it. If you have pictures, send pictures, all those things. But that's a really great way to get any issues resolved in the neighborhood that are repeat offenders that you just can't get done. So.
What they say they're giving us.
Oh, yeah.
I think everybody here.
So we have requested, hopefully they will put them in. We have requested 10 garbage cans throughout the neighborhood. So everybody sees those little garbage cans that have the little art around them. We have a few on 17th because it's the Max line, but they kind of forgot our neighborhood. So we've requested a bunch along Milwaukie Avenue. We've requested some up on the other side of the tracks. We've requested, yeah, so almost all parts of the neighborhood we've requested. I asked them, how many can we get? And I'm like, can we do 10? They're like, well, let's start there. So we'll see. Oh, that's right. That's right. We have this one thing on the agenda. Yes, one question. Okay. I think we are being pretty well represented with feedback. We don't ask people whether they're renting or homeowner, and we don't ask them whether they're family or not, but they do comment those things. So I don't think we've counted or really tracked it necessarily, but we want feedback from as many people as possible. I mean, just like anything else out there, we need feedback. Yeah, exactly.
I kept the form submissions anonymous because anonymous speech is a foundation of the First Amendment, and I didn't want people to think like they were going to have their questions tracked. So I kept the online forms anonymous. We did have people submit us questions in email. If you don't want to be anonymous, just email the board, but I kept that form anonymous on purpose with, just to make sure that somebody who didn't feel comfortable revealing their identity would be able to ask a question. Yeah.
They don't have to do their own permit process.
Yeah, the question was around, comparing the speed of construction of the camp versus the food cart pod. And yeah, I mean, they built a lot of stuff very quickly in World War II here. This is the home of the Liberty ships. Remember, they built a whole Liberty ship in a week once. Yeah, they don't have to conform to the same code as what. There was a question online about the trash cans. How often will trash be picked up? We have no clue how often trash will be picked up. Good question. We'll find that out though. Okay.
Out there, I've never seen one over full. I don't know if any of you have, but I've never seen one of them like.
We did try to
overfilled.
select the places, and we tried to select appropriate places to where somebody's, like, there's not gonna be any outside of a eating establishment, so people are not gonna be bringing all their stuff from a eating establishment, throwing in the trash and filling it up.
Cheryl's talking about the location of the trash cans. She's saying they're not going to be outside eating establishments or where people will dump their house trash in it. They're intended to keep the streets clean. Okay. Let's move on to this next thing. Back in May, we rationalized the bylaws. We modernized them. They hadn't been looked at since 2007. There was one particular section in the bylaws, which I just went back. Hold on. Mic off. Is it on now? Is it on now? Okay. Hold on. I got to eat the mic and I got to go back to. I pushed the wrong button. Hold on for a second. I got to go back to blog posts. And then I go back to here and there's the bylaws update. Okay. So in this case, we wanted to clarify membership last year, and there was a lot of question about the language that we use. So we went back to Southeast Uplift and said, look, we have to be open. We have to be open to anybody who can be a registered voter in the state of Oregon, regardless of housing status, regardless of where they of their housing type. So can you give us a definition of membership that won't get us in trouble with the city? So they said, well, if you put this language in here where you can say it's open to residents, property owners, business licensed employees, and representatives of nonprofit organizations located within neighborhood boundaries, that was previously in the bylaws. This is how we ascertain whether you're actually eligible to be a member. To prove residency, you have to have a driver's license, a state ID, proof of Oregon voter registration, recent utility bill, rental agreement, mortgage statement, deed, or attested validation by 2 seated BAC board members. And that's for somebody who may have just moved into the neighborhood and doesn't have their documentation. Business licenses would have to have the address of the business in the neighborhood. Anybody who's an employee would have to have proof of from their employer or validation from the neighborhood employer. So like if Tomcat has somebody working for them who wants to come to meetings and vote, he can attest, yeah, this person works for me. They don't have to have the proof. And representatives of nonprofit organizations located within the neighborhood boundaries, that's like Caribou or any other place that's within there, they could work on there as well, but we can also do the same attested validation. And the attestation doesn't need to be a signed document, just enter in the meeting minutes that these 2 board members did this attestation, and it becomes, okay, that person then becomes part of the meeting minutes and they can vote. So this is cleaning up, once again, finishing the cleanup that we did last May on the bylaws to make sure that we have a legally defensible definition of membership in the BAC. So I'd like to put this up for a vote. The bylaws changes have to be voted on by the general membership, and you're all general members. Yeah, yeah. The tent city isn't in Brooklyn. Yeah, if if they're there and they get attested to by 2 board members, or if they have an Oregon voter registration that says they live at a particular location, they'd be able to vote. You can't, you can vote in the state of Oregon without without an address, right? Right? So we have to be legally defensible. If we say you can't, yeah, you can have an intersection listed on your voter registration, right? In the state of Oregon. You don't, because you can't discriminate against people's housing status by voting. That's against the Constitution. Yeah. Overlook Neighborhood Association was defunded by the city because they explicitly tried to exclude household heat. Our bylaws were not clear on the fact, and we needed to be defensible to the city. So we said, give us defensible language that makes us be legal with the city. So it's in our bylaws. Yeah. Covering our ass. We're just covering our ass. Oh, God. Everybody in favor of the bylaws, go ahead. In favor. Okay. We can close debate if anybody have any other questions about it. Yeah. This has been on the website since December. Right? We voted on it at a December board meeting, and we've had it up we published it at the general meeting in January, and we gave it 1 meeting cycle to go through. It's in the meeting minutes, and it was advertised in the newsletter back in December. Correct. It was also in all the meeting minutes. Any other questions? Okay, let's take a vote for it. Everyone in favor of adopting this amendment to the bylaws, raise your hands. We need to count. You got to count.
There are hands raised on Zoom.
And there are 3 hands raised on Zoom. 27. You got that, Stu? Okay.
One more time, how many?
4, 5 more. 5 more. So it was 23 plus, okay, 6, 30. Okay, 29. Stu, you got that?
Got
Okay.
it.
Okay. Anyone voting nay? Anyone opposed? Everyone else abstaining? Abstaining, 2 abstentions. Okay,
Well, hold
you.
on, John.
yes.
That was a quick move through no's and then abstentions.
What?
Okay,
No, an abstention.
okay.
Just give the
Any
people
comments?
also online a chance to raise and lower. So let's go back to no's, make sure we don't have any no's.
Go to no's, raise your hands online. Use the little hand raise thing for no's.
We also have some folks who say they simply can't hear what's being discussed, so they can't vote because they are simply unaware of what's happening in the meeting.
Can you like scroll to the page that that has the overview of what's being changed again, just for people? Thank you.
So the italicized parts are what's being changed. Okay, any no votes? Yeah, sign out if you didn't sign in. Okay. Any abstentions? Okay, I think the voting's closed, Stu. I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna shut the meeting down now too. I think we're done. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Yes, that would be awesome. Bye, everybody.
Don, I'm gonna grab the chat.